The lamp keepers watch at the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Let yourself settle now, wherever you are. Let the weight of the day lift gently from your shoulders, the way evening mist lifts from the surface of a warm sea. Close your eyes if you wish, and allow your breathing to slow, each breath carrying you further from the waking world and closer to a place of ancient calm. Tonight, we journey to the shores of ancient Alexandria, to the foot of the Great Pharos, the towering lighthouse that once guided ships safely home across the wine-dark waters of the Mediterranean. You are the lamp keeper here, and your watch has just begun. The evening is warm and soft, the harbor is still, and the great flame at the crown of the tower is yours to tend through the gentle hours of the night. Scene 1, the path to the Pharos. The sun has only just slipped beneath the western horizon, and the sky above Alexandria is painted in broad, soft strokes of lavender and fading gold. The last warmth of the Egyptian day lingers on the limestone path beneath your sandaled feet as you make your way along the harbor causeway toward the great lighthouse. The path is smooth, worn by generations of keepers before you, and your footsteps fall in a gentle, unhurried rhythm against the pale stone. On either side of the causeway, the harbor waters lap quietly, their surface catching the last traces of color from the sky. Small fishing boats bob at their moorings, their wooden hulls creaking softly with the gentle rocking of the tide. The smell of salt and cedar drifts up from the water, mingled with the faint sweetness of the lotus blossoms that grow in the garden courtyards along the shore. A warm breeze moves across the harbor from the open sea, carrying with it the distant call of gulls settling onto the breakwater for the night. Their cries are soft and unhurried, the evening calls of birds that have spent the day riding the thermals above the harbor and are now folding their wings for rest. The great lighthouse rises ahead of you, its pale limestone walls glowing faintly in the last light of dusk. From this distance, it appears almost dreamlike, a column of softly illuminated stone reaching upward into the darkening sky. You can see the first faint flicker of the beacon fire at its crown, a small golden point of light that will soon grow into a steady, guiding flame. The evening air is warm and still, and you walk slowly, savoring the quiet beauty of this liminal hour between day and night. The stones of the causeway radiate a gentle warmth beneath your feet, absorbed from the long Egyptian afternoon. Each step carries a trace of that warmth upward through your sandals, soothing and pleasant. Somewhere behind you in the city, a temple bell rings once, twice, 3 times, the evening call to prayer, and then falls silent. The sound fades slowly across the water, dissolving into the general hush of the evening harbor. The moored boats settle lower in the water as the tide gently ebbs, their ropes going slack with soft, creaking sounds. Along the causeway's edge, small crabs scuttle between the stones, their tiny legs clicking faintly against the wet limestone. The water between the harbor stones is warm and still, reflecting the deepening sky in pools of violet and rose. A pelican sits motionless on a wooden post, its great bill tucked against its breast, already settled for the night. You pass it quietly, careful not to disturb its rest, and the bird regards you with one sleepy eye before closing it again. The harbor settles into its nighttime stillness, and only the soft lapping of water against stone and the distant murmur of the open sea remain. Scene 2, entering the great tower. You reach the base of the Pharos and pause for a moment, tilting your head upward to take in its immense height. The lighthouse rises in 3 graceful tiers, a broad, square base of white limestone, a slender octagonal middle section, and a cylindrical tower at the crown where the great beacon burns. The walls are smooth and warm to the touch, and you rest your palm against the limestone as you step through the arched doorway into the ground floor of the tower. The stone feels alive beneath your hand, still radiating the day's absorbed heat, solid and reassuring in the gathering dusk. Inside, the air is cool and still, carrying the faint scent of lamp oil and old stone. The interior is spacious, with high ceilings supported by thick columns of polished granite. Oil lamps set in wall niches cast pools of soft, amber light across the tiled floor, their flames steady and unwavering in the calm air. The tiles beneath your feet are smooth and cool, laid out in geometric patterns of blue and white that were old when your grandfather was young. Your footsteps echo gently in the vaulted space, each step producing a soft, rounded sound that fades slowly into the warm silence. A wide spiral ramp curves upward along the inner wall, broad enough for a cart to pass, though tonight only your quiet footsteps break the stillness. The ramp is paved with the same smooth limestone as the causeway outside, its surface worn to a gentle polish by centuries of use. You begin your ascent, and the ramp carries you upward in long, lazy curves. The walls on either side are smooth, painted long ago with scenes of ships and sea creatures that have faded into soft, ghostly outlines. You trail your fingers along the cool stone as you walk, feeling the gentle undulations carved by centuries of passing hands. Here, beneath your fingertips, you can feel where countless other keepers have touched this same wall, their passage wearing a shallow groove in the stone that guides your hand like a gentle current. The air grows slightly warmer as you climb, heated by the beacon fire far above, and carries with it the faint, pleasant scent of rendered tallow and resinous wood. Through narrow windows set at intervals in the outer wall, you catch glimpses of the harbor below, the water now a dark mirror reflecting the first stars of evening. The city of Alexandria spreads out behind the harbor, its domed rooftops and columned temples softened by the gathering dusk. Lanterns are beginning to appear in windows and doorways, tiny golden sparks scattered across the sleeping city. The spiral ramp turns and turns, each revolution lifting you a little higher, and the rhythm of your footsteps becomes a gentle, meditative pattern. Step, 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 steady and slow, carrying you upward through the warm, quiet heart of the lighthouse. Scene 3, the Keeper's Chamber. Halfway up the tower, you reach the Keeper's Chamber, a comfortable room set into the thick walls of the octagonal section. This is your home for the night, and it welcomes you with the soft glow of oil lamps and the familiar scent of dried herbs hanging from the low ceiling, bundles of lavender and rosemary and thyme, their fragrance released slowly by the warmth of the lamps, filling the air with a clean, aromatic sweetness that makes you breathe more deeply. The room is small but perfectly appointed, a narrow sleeping pallet spread with linen blankets, a wooden table set with a clay pitcher of cool water and a bowl of figs, and a cushioned chair positioned beside the window. The cushion is covered in faded indigo cloth, soft from years of use, and it gives beneath your weight with a gentle sigh as you settle into it. The chair fits you perfectly, as if it were made for exactly your shape, and you feel your muscles relax as the support takes your weight. You pour yourself a cup of water from the clay pitcher, and the cool liquid soothes your lips and throat. The pitcher sweats faintly in the warm air, its clay surface beaded with moisture that catches the lamplight in tiny, golden drops. Through the arched window, the sea stretches out before you, vast and dark, dotted here and there with the tiny lights of distant fishing boats heading home for the night. Their lanterns bob gently with the movement of the waves, appearing and disappearing behind the slow, rolling swells like earthbound stars. The Aegean breeze moves gently through the window, carrying the clean scent of salt and the faintest hint of jasmine from the gardens far below. The breeze is warm and soft, barely strong enough to stir the herbs hanging from the ceiling, but you can feel it on your face and arms, a gentle caress that carries with it the warmth and the scent of the open sea. You can hear the beacon fire crackling softly above you, a steady, comforting sound, like the murmur of a contented hearth. The flames send a warm, amber glow down through the stairwell, and the walls of your chamber flicker with gentle, dancing light. On the table beside you, a small bronze incense burner sends up a thin curl of frankincense smoke, its sweet, resinous fragrance filling the room with a sense of sacred calm. The smoke rises in a thin, unbroken column toward the ceiling, where it spreads and dissipates in the still air, leaving behind only its gentle perfume. You take a slow breath, letting the warmth and stillness of the chamber settle around you like a soft blanket. The sounds of the harbor below have faded to a distant whisper, and the only sounds now are the gentle crackle of the beacon, the soft sighing of the breeze through the window, and the quiet beating of your own heart. Here, suspended between sea and sky, between the sleeping city and the watchful stars, you feel a deep and abiding peace. Scene 4, Tending the Flame. You rise from your chair and continue your ascent, climbing the last flights of the spiral ramp to the beacon chamber at the crown of the lighthouse. The air here is warm and golden, filled with the steady radiance of the great fire. The beacon sits in a wide bronze brazier at the center of a circular chamber, its flames reflected and magnified by enormous polished mirrors of bronze and silver that send the light streaming out across the dark sea. The mirrors are works of art in themselves, their surfaces curved with mathematical precision, polished to a brilliance that catches the firelight and multiplies it 100-fold. The light that leaves this chamber is visible for miles, a golden beacon that reaches out across the dark water like a welcoming arm. You approach the fire slowly, feeling its warmth on your face and hands. The heat is not fierce but gentle, radiating steadily from the bed of glowing coals and the logs that burn above them. The flames are strong and steady tonight, fed by seasoned olive wood and blocks of compressed resin that burn slowly and evenly through the long hours. You take a long bronze poker from its hook on the wall and gently shift the logs, opening small channels in the glowing coals to let the air circulate. The motion is practiced and deliberate, each adjustment made with the confidence of long experience. Sparks rise in lazy spirals, climbing briefly toward the ceiling before winking out like tiny, short-lived stars. The coals shift and settle with soft, clicking sounds, and the fire responds gratefully to your tending, its flames brightening and steadying. The mirrors around the chamber catch the renewed light and throw it outward in broad, golden beams, and you can see the light reaching out across the water, touching the waves with a warm, amber glow. A ship passes in the distance, its white sail catching the beacon's light for a moment before it slips beyond the horizon. You watch it go with a quiet sense of satisfaction, knowing that your flame has guided it safely past the shoals and the rocky headlands where the current runs treacherous in the dark. The work of tending the fire is simple and rhythmic. Add a log here, shift the coals there, check the oil reservoirs that feed the smaller lamps around the chamber. You move through these tasks with the ease of long practice, your hands knowing their work, your mind free to drift. Each task flows naturally into the next, a gentle sequence of small, purposeful movements that keep the great flame burning true. The fire hums and crackles softly, and the warm air smells of burning wood and aromatic resin, a comforting fragrance that wraps around you like a familiar embrace. You check the last oil lamp, trim its wick with a small pair of brass scissors, and hang the scissors back on their hook. The lamp burns more brightly, its flame clean and steady, and you nod with quiet satisfaction. Scene 5, The View from the Crown. With the flame tended, you step out onto the narrow observation gallery that encircles the beacon chamber. The night air meets you with a gentle coolness, a welcome contrast to the warmth of the fire. You lean against the low parapet and gaze out across the world spread below you. The stone of the parapet is smooth and still warm from the day, and it feels solid and reassuring beneath your forearms as you settle your weight against it. The sea stretches away in every direction, dark and vast, and shimmering faintly with reflected starlight. To the north, the open Mediterranean extends toward invisible shores, Crete, Rhodes, the coast of Anatolia, all hidden beyond the curve of the earth, but connected to you by the light that streams from the beacon at your back. To the south and west, the city of Alexandria lies beneath you, a tapestry of amber lights and deep shadows. The great library glows faintly, its columned facade illuminated by torches that burn all through the night. You can see the long colonnade that connects the library to the museum, a corridor of light and shadow where scholars walk even at this hour, their sandaled feet whispering against the marble floor. Beyond the city, the dark ribbon of the Nile Delta spreads toward the interior of Egypt, its waters catching the starlight in long, silver threads. The delta is a vast, flat expanse of darkness, broken here and there by the faint glow of a village lamp or the glinting surface of an irrigation canal. The harbor directly below is calm and still, the moored ships sitting motionless on the glass-smooth water. You can see the reflections of stars on the harbor surface, perfect mirror images that tremble slightly with the breathing of the tide. A lighthouse cat, one of the many that live in the tower and keep the mice at bay, has followed you onto the gallery and now presses against your ankle, purring softly. The vibration travels up through your leg, a small, warm tremor of contentment. You reach down and stroke its warm fur, and it arches into your hand with a contented sigh, pressing its head firmly against your palm. The cat's fur is short and dense, warmed by the stones of the gallery, and you can feel the gentle rumble of its purring through your fingers. The Aegean breeze moves across the gallery, carrying the scent of the sea and the faintly sweet fragrance of night-blooming flowers from the palace gardens below. You breathe it in deeply, letting the cool, salt air fill your lungs. Above you, the sky is vast and clear, filled with more stars than you could ever count, their light ancient and steady, reaching you across unimaginable distances. The constellation of Orion stands clear above the eastern horizon, his belt of 3 bright stars angled toward the sea. You rest your elbows on the warm stone of the parapet and let your gaze soften, letting the stars blur gently until they become a field of soft, golden light, and the boundary between sea and sky dissolves into a single, luminous darkness. Scene 6, the Midnight Harbor. The hours pass gently, measured by the slow wheeling of the stars across the sky and the rhythmic tending of the beacon fire. It is deep midnight now, and the world has settled into its most profound stillness. The city below has gone dark and quiet, its streets empty, its windows shuttered against the night. Only the eternal lamps of the temples and the library still burn, steady golden points in the sleeping landscape, like the last embers of a fire that has burned all day and will burn again tomorrow. You lean against the gallery railing and gaze down at the harbor, which has taken on a quality of magical calm. The water is perfectly still, a dark mirror that reflects the stars so clearly that it is difficult to tell where the sea ends and the sky begins. The moored ships seem to float in a void of soft, twinkling light, their masts and rigging traced in starlight, their hulls dark silhouettes against the glowing water. The ropes that hold them to the quay drip silently, each drop falling into the harbor with a tiny, barely audible splash that sends out perfect circular ripples. A single night heron stands motionless at the edge of the quay, its long neck curved in patient watchfulness. The bird is so still that it might be carved from stone, a gray sentinel keeping its own silent vigil over the sleeping harbor. As you observe, it suddenly strikes, a flash of movement too quick to follow, and comes up with a small silver fish gleaming in its beak. It swallows its catch and resumes its patient vigil, as still as before, as if the strike had never happened at all. The sound of the sea is gentle and rhythmic, a soft, ceaseless murmur that rises from the breakwater where small waves curl and dissolve against the tumbled stones. It is the oldest sound in the world, this breathing of the sea, and it carries you back through centuries, through millennia, to a time before the lighthouse, before the city, before any human voice spoke beside these waters. The sea was breathing then just as it breathes now, patient and eternal, and it will go on breathing long after this night has passed into memory. You breathe in time with the waves, letting their rhythm become your rhythm, letting the ancient peace of the midnight sea settle deep into your bones. The air is warm and still, scented with salt and the faint fragrance of night-blooming flowers from the palace gardens across the harbor. The jasmine has opened fully now, releasing its heavy, sweet perfume into the still night air, and it mingles with the salt and the stone and the warm wood of the ships to create a fragrance that belongs only to this place, this hour, this gentle watch. The beacon fire burns steadily behind you, its light streaming out across the water in long, golden paths that reach toward the horizon, and you stand between the fire and the sea, a quiet witness to the beauty of the ancient night. Scene 7, the changing of the stars. As the night deepens, you notice the constellations have shifted in their slow, eternal dance across the sky. Orion has moved higher, his raised arm now pointing almost directly overhead, and new stars have risen in the east, the bright blue eye of Sirius, the dog star, glinting like a sapphire above the sea. The Milky Way stretches across the zenith, a river of soft, milky light flowing from horizon to horizon, and you trace its path with your gaze, marveling at the countless tiny stars that make up its luminous current. Each star is a tiny sun, impossibly distant, and yet its light reaches you here on this gallery, patient and faithful, having traveled for years beyond counting to touch your upturned face. You return inside to tend the flame, adding another log to the brazier and adjusting the mirrors slightly to keep the beam true. The fire accepts the new wood gratefully, sending up a brief shower of sparks before settling back into its steady, rhythmic burning. The new log crackles softly as the flames find its surface, testing the bark, searching for the resin-rich heartwood beneath. You pour a small measure of aromatic oil into the reservoir of one of the side lamps, and the scent of cedar and myrrh blooms gently in the warm air, adding a new layer to the complex, soothing fragrance of the beacon chamber. Moving back to your keeper's chamber, you lower yourself onto the cushioned chair and take a fig from the bowl on the table. It is perfectly ripe, soft, and honey-sweet, and you eat it slowly, savoring the simple pleasure. The fig's skin is thin and yielding, and the flesh inside is warm and dark, filled with tiny seeds that crunch gently between your teeth. The cool water from the pitcher is clear and refreshing, drawn from the deep cistern beneath the lighthouse that collects rainwater filtered through layers of sand and limestone. It tastes of nothing but purity itself. Through the window, the sea continues its quiet breathing, and the stars continue their unhurried procession. You feel a deep contentment settling over you, a sense of rightness and belonging. This tower, this fire, this vigil, they connect you to every keeper who has come before, every watcher who has sat in the same chair and gazed out at this same sea beneath these same eternal stars. The lamp at your elbow gutters slightly in a stray breath of breeze, then steadies, and its warm light plays across the pages of a leather-bound logbook that lies open on the table, recording the quiet hours of another peaceful night. You take up the pen and write a single line, "All is well." The flame burns true. The harbor sleeps. You set the pen down and lean back in the chair, letting the peace of the night wrap around you. Scene 8, a ship in the distance. In the deep hours of the night, when the world is at its most still, you notice a tiny light on the far horizon, a ship's lantern, bobbing gently with the movement of the waves. You rise and move to the gallery, watching as the distant vessel slowly takes shape, its single lantern growing gradually brighter as it approaches the harbor. It is a merchant ship. You can tell by the broad curve of its hull and the heavy set of its single square sail, now furled for the night approach. The ship has been at sea for days, perhaps weeks, and the crew aboard must feel a surge of relief at the sight of the Pharos beam reaching out to guide them home. The ship is moving slowly under oars, guided by the steady beam of your lighthouse, and you feel a quiet pride knowing that your flame is bringing these travelers safely home. The sound of the oars reaches you faintly across the water, a soft, rhythmic splashing, like the gentle pulse of a sleeping heart. Dip, pull, lift. Dip, pull, lift. The rhythm is steady and patient, the practiced cadence of experienced oarsmen who know these waters well. You watch as the ship glides into the harbor mouth. passing between the stone jetties with practiced ease, the oarsmen reading the beam of the Pharos with the skill of long experience. The ship finds its berth along the stone quay, and you hear the muffled thud of ropes being thrown and the quiet voices of the harbor watch as they secure the vessel for the night. The voices are too distant to make out words, but their tone is warm and welcoming, the sounds of homecoming, of safe arrival, of a journey completed. Within minutes, the ship has settled into stillness, its lantern extinguished, its crew retreating below decks to sleep. The harbor returns to its peaceful emptiness, the only evidence of the ship's arrival a few gentle ripples spreading outward from its hull, catching the starlight as they fade to nothing. You smile quietly to yourself and return to the warmth of the beacon chamber, where the fire burns on, steady and faithful, sending its light out across the dark water to guide the next traveler home. There is something deeply satisfying about this work, this simple act of keeping a light burning through the darkness. It asks nothing of you but patience and presence, and in return it gives you this, the quiet knowledge that somewhere out on the dark sea, someone is looking toward your light and finding comfort in its steady glow. You settle back into the rhythm of the watch, moving between the beacon and the gallery, between the warmth of the fire and the cool freshness of the night air. Each circuit a gentle, unhurried meditation on light and darkness and the ancient fellowship of keepers. Scene 9, the hour before dawn. The night is beginning to age, though dawn is still a long way off. There is a subtle shift in the quality of the darkness, not lighter, exactly, but somehow softer, as if the sky is beginning to remember that light exists. The stars near the eastern horizon have faded slightly, overwhelmed by a faint, almost imperceptible glow that has appeared along the edge of the sea. It is not yet dawn, not even the first hint of dawn, but rather the sky's first stirring, the way a sleeping person shifts slightly in the hour before waking. The air has cooled to its lowest point, and a gentle dew has formed on the stone gallery, making the parapet gleam softly in the beacon's light. The dew beads on the iron railing, on the stone floor of the gallery, on the broad leaves of the ivy that clings to the tower's outer wall. Each droplet catches the beacon's light and holds it, a tiny amber jewel suspended in the darkness. You wrap a light linen cloak around your shoulders, though the chill is not unpleasant. It carries with it the fresh, clean scent of the open sea and the promise of a new day still hours away. Inside the beacon chamber, the fire has settled into a deep bed of glowing coals, radiating a steady, gentle heat that warms the stone floor beneath your feet. The coals pulse faintly with each breath of air that reaches them, brightening and dimming in a slow, rhythmic pattern that mirrors the breathing of the sea below. You add the last log of the night to the brazier, a thick round of seasoned olive wood that will burn slowly through the remaining hours, and the fire accepts it with a soft, contented sigh, sending up a brief ribbon of golden sparks. The new log settles into the coals, and the bark catches fire first, curling and blackening as small orange flames dance along its surface. The mirrors continue their faithful work, gathering the light and sending it outward in broad, sweeping beams. You settle once more into the chair in your keeper's chamber, pulling the linen cloak close around you. The chair is warm and comfortable, molded by years of use to fit the shape of countless weary keepers, and you sink into it with a deep sigh of contentment. The cushion gives way beneath you with familiar softness, and you feel your body settling, your weight distributing evenly, every muscle releasing its last trace of tension. The sounds of the night wrap around you like a soft blanket, the gentle breathing of the sea, the quiet crackle of the beacon fire, the distant, sleepy call of a night bird somewhere in the city below. A nightjar, perhaps, or a small owl calling from the temple gardens. Your eyelids grow heavy, and you let them close, trusting that the great fire will burn faithfully through the remaining hours without your watchful gaze. The fire has burned through 10,000 nights before this one, and it will burn through 10,000 more. Scene 10, Peace at the Edge of Sleep. You rest now in the warm stillness of the keeper's chamber, suspended between waking and dreaming, between the ancient sea and the ageless sky. The lighthouse stands around you, solid and enduring, its thick walls holding back the vastness of the night and cradling you in a cocoon of warmth and safety. The stone has stood here for centuries, weathering storms and calms alike, and it will stand for centuries more. And within its patient embrace, you are utterly safe, utterly held. The beacon fire burns on above you, its light streaming out across the dark Mediterranean, a golden thread connecting this tower to every distant shore, every traveling ship, every sailor who looks up from the rolling deck and finds comfort in its steady glow. The light reaches out across the water in long, straight paths that touch the crests of distant waves and turn them briefly golden before moving on. Somewhere out there, another ship is finding its way home by the light you have tended, and the thought fills you with a warm, gentle pride that is indistinguishable from peace. The sounds that surround you are ancient and unchanging, the slow breathing of the sea against the harbor walls, the soft crackling of the fire, the gentle sighing of the warm breeze through the narrow windows of the tower. These are the sounds that have lulled countless keepers to sleep across the centuries, and they lull you now, carrying you gently downward into the soft, dark waters of deep and dreamless rest. Each sound blends with the others, forming a single, seamless texture of gentle noise that wraps around your consciousness and softens its edges. The stars turn slowly overhead, their light reaching down through the clear Egyptian sky to touch the top of the lighthouse with silver. The harbor sleeps. The ships sleep. The great city of Alexandria sleeps, its domes and temples and columned libraries all wrapped in the soft blue darkness of the early hours. And you sleep too, safe in the keeper's chamber, rocked gently by the ancient rhythms of the sea and the steady, faithful burning of the great flame. The lighthouse watches over you as you have watched over the harbor, and the night passes gently, hour by quiet hour, carrying you deeper and deeper into rest. There is nothing to do now, nothing to tend, nothing to watch for. The flame burns on, the sea breathes on, the stars turn on, and you drift, warm and safe and utterly at peace, into the deepest, most restful sleep you have ever known. Let the great lighthouse hold you. Let the ancient sea sing you to sleep. Let the flame burn on, steady and golden, guiding you gently through the night. You are the keeper, and the lighthouse keeps you in return, and together you rest, safe and warm, while the ancient world sleeps softly around you.